What is up, my friends? Welcome. Hey, everybody. How are you? Good to see you. It's Kev here, and it is the Chief Chat. And what an exciting chat it's going to be. So talking to my buddy. What's up, everybody? Let's say hello first, and then I'll get to the nitty gritty. Hi, Carrie. How are you? Good to see you. Lindsay, what's up? Alex, good to see you. Angie's here. Jimmy Parent, James Parent now. Oh, he's gone professional. He's James Parent. Hello, everybody. This is my friend James Parent, and these are his basketball shorts. What's up, Hillary? Marsha, how are you? Good to see you. DP in the place to be. I ain't going to stop saying it. David Power, good to see you. David Real, keeping it real. Hey, everybody, come on in. Get yourself. Jen Walker, good to see you. Hi, Tanya. So check it out. This morning, as you may have saw in the latest email, talking to my buddy Parris Lampropoulos. We all know him. We all love him. We all study his stuff. But it's not, we also know that Parris is a very private guy, and that he doesn't share a lot of his teaching very openly. And so this is a rare treat for Parris to come on and teach what he's going to teach today, because we were having a conversation this morning and we started talking about persuasion and the psychology behind why people buy, and this idea of showing them magic. And I said, dude, man, it pains me that I'm the only one hearing this. And I said, would you come on the Chief Chat today and share this? And he said, yeah, I'll do that. So here we are, and let's get to it in just a second. I want to quickly remind you, first of all, welcome to all the new members. Copy Chief is open this week. We are actually open all the time now. We don't do the, hey, we're only open for this week. What we do now instead is come join us this week, because we're setting off on a new adventure next week. And so that is the case. You'll see a bunch of new members coming in this week, and it's really exciting to have you all. Thank you for joining. And so the adventure that starts next week begins on Wednesday, the 5th, with our Facebook ad writing training with Mike Renard, who, if you were at Copy Chief Live, he kind of stole the show on us a little bit. Handsome devil that he is, and super brilliant guy. And one just small training he did was how he takes one Facebook ad, and instantly turns it into 5 different ads that you can test. And so Mike's going to show us his entire framework. Mike has been running my Facebook ad campaigns since probably about April now, and we've learned a lot together. And he's just like climbing the ranks very quickly of all the Facebook people out there. And so he's also a great teacher and a longtime resident of Copy Chief. So it's going to be super cool. Mike's training on the 5th. Now, the following week, this is what we're going to start doing now. We're going to do a training and then a challenge so that we can all immerse and learn the lessons together, because that is how we really learn, right? We got to get into the nitty gritty and get your hands dirty with it, right? And then becomes party. It gets into your DNA. And so after the training, starting the following Monday, we are going to have a fun Facebook ad writing challenge, and you will get coaching from Mike and me, and probably Tim, who's very involved in our campaigns, and maybe Russell Lachlan, who's very involved in our campaigns, and all the other great copywriters and ambassadors and coaches. So it's going to be really cool and fun, and I'm excited about it. So again, if you're new, welcome. If you're not new, a whole new reason to get excited. So kick ass. So let's do it. Let's get our friend Parris on the line. I don't think we'll be seeing Parris because, again, super private guy. May not have brushed his hair. We don't know. But Parris, oops. Let me make sure this is you. I'm going to promote you now to panelist Parris. That may or may not turn on your camera. Let's see what happens. Oh, there he is. There he is. You look like Bernie Madoff with that hat. You got you. So you can turn your camera off. Well, we need your mic. You want your camera off? I can turn your, there we go. Now let's turn your mic on. There we go. Can we hear you?
Yeah.
There he is. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I just flew in from Atlanta, and boy, are my arms tired.
Hey. Wait,
yeah, I never heard that one before.
I have that sound effect. Not a rim shot exactly, but okay.
It was good. Yeah.
You know who sent me? John Carlton sent me this, of all people, right? You can imagine.
What the hell is it? What is it?
It's a sound effect machine.
Sound machine made in China.
I'm sure it was made in China. Yeah, they make all the best stuff. It's from Cincinnati, Ohio. Actually, it's from London. It's British. So you get, hey, fuck off, will you? Huh? It's got it all. So good. So thanks for being here, Parris. Thanks for doing this. And I say, let's dive right into the lesson. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
And so I'll let you take it away. I gave a little bit of context, but there's no reason for me to babble over your brilliant teaching. So let's dive into it.
Okay. So when my kids were little, we were big fans of the Harry Potter movies, right? And they were just so captivated by this whole idea about being able to do magic. And being the little kids that they were, they started to believe that they had magical powers. And so my daughter thought that she could communicate with animals, and they know what she's saying, and they communicate back to her, and she knows what they're thinking and all this kind of stuff, right? And you say, oh, that's so cute, you know, children, they're so wonderful. But it occurred to me that adults are just the same thing. We believe in magical shit too. So, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to offend anybody here, because some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is stuff that I believe in. But I'm just kind of tell you something that's a fact, okay? And it is a fact that there are hundreds of millions of people on this planet, maybe over a billion people, probably over a billion people, who believe that there was a dude who walked on water and turned water into wine and raised people from the dead, okay? Now, if that's not magic, I don't know what is, okay? Now, there's a bunch of other people who say, oh, that's nonsense. The Bible is a bunch of fairy tales. I don't believe any of that stuff, but I'm spiritual. And I believe that if I have these crystals on my fucking desk, you know, we're going to have all these curative properties, because the crystals and the energy, and I can read your aura, right?
Right.
And both groups are poo-pooing. One group is poo-pooing the other group. They're both poo-pooing each other, right? You're either a new agey woo-woo person, or you're a traditional religious person, right? And you're poo-pooing each other. Meanwhile, it's the same thing. You both believe in magic, okay? Then there's a third group of people, the atheists. And of course, they like to look down their nose upon the woo-woo people and the religious people. Oh, it's all nonsense. I only believe in science. So they believe that there are these things called quarks, and that things can happen simultaneously, and that there are infinite parallel universes. Okay, if that's not magic, I don't know what is, okay? So there's an interesting experiment that was done by a social scientist where he took a room full of atheists, okay? And he brought this old wooden box that he made in, you know, the wood shop at the local high school, and he made it look like weathered and really old, like it was hundreds of years old. And he said, I got this from, I'm not getting the details exactly right, okay, but it was very close to this. I got this from this tribe in Papua New Guinea. It was made by the witch doctor, and they believe that if you put a possession of yours in here, your soul will get crushed and all this stuff. And he said, Can I have a volunteer to put your driver's license in this box, please? And none of the fucking atheists would do it. There's another great video on YouTube of Darren Brown. I don't know if you guys know Darren Brown. You can comment if you know Darren Brown, don't know Darren Brown. He's a magician. He's a mentalist. He's an NLP guy. He's a hypnotist. Very entertaining. I highly recommend his videos. You learn, it's not only is it great entertainment, but you learn a lot about human nature and persuasion. So he got a room full of atheists and got them to believe that this faith healer was really healing people. Okay? So I hope by now I have convinced you that people believe in magic and people want magic in their lives. Yes?
Yes.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yes, yes, and yes.
You and I have never met before, right?
That is correct.
So if people want magic, type in your comment box. If people want magic, what should we be giving people?
Oh, I want to type in.
Look at that. Everybody's got it right. Magic. Exactly. We want to give them magic. We don't want to give them some little incremental thing. We want to give them a magical thing that changes their life forever. Coffee somebody. Angie, I love Angie. You're the best.
Wait.
Coffee. So anyway, give them magic. Okay. So here's the problem is that there's the gatekeeper mind that shuts down when you start promising them magic from the get-go. You can't promise them magic in a headline. Sometimes you can if you have an implicit proof element and all this stuff. So one of the things that I teach is how to take the most over-the-top promises and make them believable, even to the logical, rational mind.
Right. This is what sparked our great conversation this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So say that again, Parris.
Say what again?
The
last whole fucking story, right?
About what, you know, we can't just come out of the gate with magic. And
that's right.
You know, and then this is a common problem sometimes that copywriters face is the actual promise almost sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, yeah. So something doesn't only have to be true, it has to sound true. So very often you have to tone down. Do I use fuck in my subject lines? Depends on who I'm writing to.
Don't read the comments. It'll only distract you.
This is a funny story, though. We're all about distraction, Kevin. We're all ADD on this show, I'm sure. Shiny objects, and like you, I can't resist going for the cheap laugh or telling a funny story. Of course, now I forgot what I was going to say. No, I remember. We had a transcript of one of our Cub calls where we were taking apart somebody's writing. This was a third party. This was a guy who works for a company I do business with, writing their content, and we were critiquing one of his pieces. And so I said, oh, it'd be really helpful if we sent the guy this recording. Now, the guy's very religious, and I said, oh, you know what? I think I may have dropped some F-bombs on this call. So why don't I get a transcript instead, go to rev.com. This way I can take out all the F-bombs because I think I may have dropped a couple and then hand it to him. So I got the transcript and I said, did the find and replace feature, 67 F-bombs.
In a 15-minute call. That's so funny.
So anyway, you were going to say something important.
Yeah, well, that's what I always know, but it reminds me of the thing where I always say, this is why, that having dinner with a group of comics and having dinner with a group of copywriters is the same exact thing, except with the copywriters, you're in a way better restaurant.
You're right. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's cursing too loud and offending every table around you. And one up each other. It's just,
you got to get the private room if you're with copywriters.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the rest of the clientele will be driven out of there.
Yeah. Okay, so we were reiterating that how you stated it. This what you're going to teach us is how you can take the most audacious, over the top promise and make it sound and feel believable.
Yeah. And so are you saying you want me to tell that
Yes.
now?
Please take us from here.
Okay. Well, part of it is having a headline that's believable. And having a headline that's believable means making a big promise, going close to the edge, but not crossing the line, and having proof that's equal to or bigger than the promise. Okay. So there's a famous piece I wrote many years ago for a financial newsletter. It had come after a market crash. And what do people want? They want magic. They want to make back every dime they lost in the crash. They don't want to hear that, oh, in 3 years, the market will be back up and you'll be back where you were. They want to make it all back immediately. So that was the promise, but that's not a believable promise. So you need an implicit proof element. And the implicit proof element was, the headline read, "Secret flaw in financial markets lets you make back every dime you lost in the crash." Not sure if that's word for word, but it's pretty close. Mm-hmm. So now you've given them the excuse to believe what they want. Oh, there's a secret flaw in the financial markets. It's a reason why explanation, right? One of the types of proof is reason why explanation. Right. There's like a lot of different kinds of proof. And that's one of my favorites. The scientific reason behind why something works or whatever. Okay. Right. Then, so it also opens up, it's an open loop because, oh, now I have to read it to find out what the secret flaw is. And then we had a subhead right underneath. So what I like to do with my subheads is I like to amplify the headline. I either want to add more proof or something to re-emphasize the promise, or something to get them a little more curious about what's coming. Mm-hmm. And in this case, my subhead was top money manager reveals how he turned $10,000 into $1 million by playing it safe. Mm. So there's a lot going on in that subhead. Right. There's a bunch of different proof. It's proof stacking, right? Right. So top money manager, that's a form of proof. He's an expert. Reveals, of course, is a great word in copy. How he turned 10,000 into 1 million. That's a proof element. That's anecdotal proof. A guy actually did it. And then at the end it says by playing it safe. Well, that's a paradox, which makes you further curious about what the answer is. But in addition to being a paradox, it's giving them magic, because what do people want? They want to have their cake and eat it too, right? They want to get flat abs without doing crunches, right? They want to get greater investment returns with less risk, which is what we're promising them here. Right. Love it. So that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Now, let's just pause there for a sec. Again, I don't want to get on a rabbit hole because there's so much here, but coming up with a headline like that, and Jimmy kind of asked this, where in the process does that come for you? Is it, because we talk about finding headline through bullets or body copy, that feels like that's a big idea, and you perfect that, and then you make everything else support that.
Right. So, a lot of copywriters are musicians, and a lot of copywriters are songwriters, and and comedy writers. There's a lot of similarities between comedy writing and copywriting. There's a lot of similarities between songwriting and copywriting. Yeah. So people ask Paul McCartney, what do you write first, the words or the lyric, the lyrics or the melody? He says, well, sometimes I write the melody first. Sometimes I write the lyrics first. Sometimes they both come to me simultaneously, right? Mm-hmm. So when do you write the headline? Do you write it before the body copy or after the body copy? Sometimes I write it before. Sometimes I write it after. Gotcha. Most of the times I write the headline first, but sometimes I do it last. Clayton's the opposite. Clayton almost always writes his headline last. He comes up with an idea that he likes. He writes an outline for the copy, how he thinks it's going to play out. Then he fills in the blanks, and now he's got a sales letter. And then after he's reading it, he reads through it and he sees what jumps out at him, and that's his headline. Yeah. Now, when I am copy chiefing someone, very often the biggest value I bring is that I see the headline buried on page 5 that they didn't notice. They didn't realize that's the headline.
Right. Awesome.
And the way I came up with this particular headline, because I remember when I wrote this, even though it was a long time ago, was I did the old swipe file, headline swipe file thing, plugging things in. And I took 2 headlines that were in my swipe file and combined them and came up with that. So again, you know, there's stuff all around you could tap into.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll get a headline because you overhear a conversation at the table next to you in the restaurant.
Right.
Sometimes the client will give you the headline, or the guru will give you the headline while you're talking to them.
Yeah. Which is why that interview skill is so critical. Okay, great. So you want to go more into the psychology of why this works?
What do you mean?
Oh, was that it? I mean, it's awesome, but I thought you were going to break down a little bit more of what happens to the reader when they experience a deck like that, and it helps them get bought in. So maybe if we just kind of break down all the elements that were there.
You know, what happens if you're doing it right is they feel a little tingle, right? When I would submit copy to Marty Edelston back in the day when he was alive, for those of you who don't know, Marty Edelston was the founder of Boardroom Inc., which is now Bottom Line Publications. And his whole criteria was, if it makes him vibrate. He would say, it doesn't make me vibrate.
Right. I love it. So, and again, the psychology there is, well, let's talk about the bad version then, you know, juxtaposed with the one you just shared. And by the way, is that, I got to dig up that ad. I don't know if anybody has that ad, but we at least got
for a small fee, Kevin. Yeah,
you're good. Really? Is part of a package? I want to see that. And what will be the bad version of trying to come out of the gate with magic?
Well, how to make back every dime you lost in the crash tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, there's no proof element. So yeah, you're going to get certain people who read it. Just like you get certain people who they get an email from a Nigerian prince and they go, "Oh, cool."
Right.
You know, see, I had a conversation recently with a copywriter friend of mine, and he asked me to look at his copy. And he had this copy where the headline was basically saying that Obama's the Antichrist, right? Mm-hmm. This was obviously not now, but
that old hook
president. Yeah. No, people have a nicer opinion of him. Just like that nice old man, George W. Bush.
Yeah, right.
In his house.
Never thought we could UW.
Right. So it was really over the top about how Obama was conspiring to destroy the country, right? To do this attack on it was an attack on the electrical grid.
Right.
And I was like, okay, you're doing a good job packing an emotional wallet. Mm-hmm. Wallop, rather. Mm-hmm. Wallet. There's a Freudian slip for you. But you're doing a great job of appealing to the real rabid fans, the hyper buyers, if you will, the hyper responsives in your list. Mm-hmm. But you're ignoring a bunch of other people like me, for example. So yeah, I'm concerned about the electrical grid. I don't want to be without power. I want to have some kind of backup plan in case the grid goes down. And yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Obama. You know, there's some things I like about him, but there's a whole lot of things I don't like about him. Mm-hmm. And so I would be a great prospect for this product, but you alienated me right from the get-go because it's not believable. Now, you may be saying that your strategy is go after the hyper responsives and ignore the rest of the folks because, Pareto principle, 80-20, or, they're going to buy most of the stuff, blah, blah, blah. But let me ask you this, as a copywriter who gets paid on performance, what's the difference between an okay control and a blockbuster control?
It could be $1 million.
Right. But this is and I go, it's not a trick question. The answer is the blockbuster control gets more people to buy than the okay control, right? So what does that mean? Well, that means it got the gullible to people to buy and the skeptical people to buy. It got the stupid people to buy and the smart people to buy. It got the people who are hyper passionate about this subject matter and the people who are, only casually interested in the subject matter. I want everybody's money. So I want to cast a wide net in my headline. I don't want people saying bullshit and tossing it before they read it.
That's great.
Like Gary Benzavenga said, the two most important words in copywriting are yeah, right. You don't want people to say yeah, right.
Right. But it's two deadliest words.
So, it's this whole dichotomy of they want magic. They want to have their cake and eat it too.
Right.
They want magic, but they want the rational justification.
But don't bullshit me. Right.
Yeah. There's this constant tug of war between your lizard brain and your, logical brain. And you got to appeal to both those beasts.
Yeah. Wow, this is great, Parris. Thank you for sharing this. Again, it's what I love about your teaching, and I've had the disgusting privilege of having so much of it in private. Is that it's always very simple, meaning I don't have to consider a completely new philosophy or structure about how to approach the work. It's always granular, and there's so much I learn from focusing on just, in this case, a headline and a subhead and what's being said there, what effect is that having on the reader. And when we see lazy copy and when we see bad copy, we realize that this person is either completely unaware of what a great headline deck should be doing, or they're just incapable, right? Or they just don't care at all.
Right.
And so, can we talk a minute for why is there no Parris course? Why don't you teach publicly?
There's actually multiple reasons. One of them is a desire to stay relatively anonymous and relatively private. So about, I don't know how long it was, 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. I don't even, it was a while ago. I had this mild stalking incident. And at the time I had young children living in my house. Mm-hmm. And that kind of spooked me a little bit. On top of already being sort of a private person and an introvert, right? A lot of us copywriters are introverts.
Sure.
And I like praise and compliments as much as the next guy. But there comes a point where it's just overwhelming. Like if I'm not even talking about being famous for real. I'm talking about, if I had John Carlton level fame, I'd be like fucking you have
basket case.
Basket case. You know what I mean? So that was a part of it. But there's also a more practical thing about a lot of the stuff that I do is proprietary. And it's what gives me and my people, my little ad agency that I have, it's what gives us the edge, because we're out there competing to get a control, to beat the other guy.
Right.
And so there's certain things that, it's best to keep to ourselves, because once it goes out there, now you don't have that tool anymore as an edge over the guy you're competing against. And those are two biggies of the reasons.
That's enough. That's enough. It's funny. Now that we're doing more cold traffic ads to see the trolls come out, people who.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I'm glad you brought that up. I want a tight control over who knows the stuff, because there's psychopaths out there. There's people selling garbage, and I don't want them using these techniques to do that.
Right.
I want to see, anytime I've revealed anything, 28 years of me being in the business, I think I've done maybe 6 or 7 or 8 interviews ever. I've spoken on stage maybe 6 times ever. And whenever I've done it, it's been with people who I know really well and I'm very close friends with, or as a mentor of mine. So you, Brian Kurtz, Clayton, Mark Ford, okay, very small number of people I say yes to. I'm saying no a lot. And by the way, the other thing, and here's this is more of a marketing positioning thing, is if I were out there all the time, this would be contrary to my positioning in the marketplace. So that's a very practical reason, right? So my positioning in the marketplace, which I love, is that I'm the guy you can't get a hold of. Yeah. So I have no website. I have no business cards. I'm not on social media. I'm not on the speaking circuit. I had an unlisted number for my company business, right? Now, of course, there's no such thing as unlisted numbers anymore, because on the internet you'd find anything. But still, that's the thing. They got to jump through hoops to get to me. So when they finally talk to me, it's a whole different dynamic.
Right.
Facing for business.
Yeah, the first question isn't how much is it?
Right. I get to call the shots, not only from a fee standpoint, but from you got to listen to what I say and do what I say.
I will call the shots here. Yeah.
So if I were to be all over the place, and I actually enjoy public speaking, and I enjoy doing the interview. But if I were out there all over the place, it would not be congruent with my positioning. And that's another important copywriting lesson. Everything has to be congruent in the copy. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The tone, everything, the look of it has to be with what you're selling, all that stuff. So anyway, that's a very long answer, but that's why I don't think
it's a good answer. It makes total sense. Yeah. And again, just thank you for the privilege of being, I think I've taken up about half of those 6 of each. And it's because of my relentless begging, and you've been very generous.
No, man, he's lying. Kevin is one of the most giving human beings I've ever met, and one of the best people I know. And when we hardly knew each other, when we were first starting our relationship, I was down in Florida getting treated for Lyme disease, and he opened up his home to me. He had me over at his house for Super Bowl. He had me over at his house for Easter. He did all kinds of stuff, and this is the kind of guy he is. And we have a very deep friendship. And I hope I'm as good a friend to you as you've been to me.
That's very kind. Of course. Yeah. It's been very fulfilling. Let me say that. Our conversations and the amount of laughing we do is very enriched my life in a lot of ways. Yeah. So on this note of caring and giving and being good humans, you're you being a very private person, but one thing I know you do want to share is that you have a cousin who's fighting for his life right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's the same age as me. We grew up together. We were little kids. We were, kind of like brothers. That's in the Greek families. Your cousins are like, you see them all the time, just like your siblings. And he found out about 3 months ago that he has glioblastoma, which is a brain cancer, maybe the worst kind of cancer you can have. It's the cancer that killed John McCain, Teddy Kennedy. Most people, don't live past 18 months.
Wow.
And
he learned this 3 months ago?
Yeah, yeah. He was having headaches, and oh, let's go get an MRI and see what's going on. And then they find out he has that. And he has two daughters and a wife. And this is a guy. He's not like super sophisticated like a lot of the people we may come in contact with. He's just a regular guy who worked hard all his life, trading his hours for dollars. Right? Never made a lot of money. Uh, just kind of a laborer kind of guy, you know. Um, and so here he is at a time when, oh, the daughters are in college. One of them's done with college. And it's the empty nest. Now's the time you busted your balls. I mean, this guy literally 12 and 14-hour weeks for 14-hour days for, I don't know, 20 years, working his ass off. And now it's time to kick back and enjoy the fruits of your labor and rekindle the relationship with your wife. And instead he gets this, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm very fortunate in that I know about a lot of stuff, medical stuff and alternative treatments, complementary treatments, nutrition, everything, the whole gamut. To use the cliche, I know ninja shit that people don't know about.
Yeah. Brian Kurtz always talks about when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, his first call was to an oncologist and the second call was to you.
Right. Yeah. So I knew about, there's a bunch of doctors in the country. When I say a bunch, it's no more than a few hundred in the entire United States who know these treatments that you can do in addition to chemotherapy and radiation that will dramatically increase your odds of success. And so, much to my surprise, there was a doctor right in his town who does it. So I flew down there, and the appointment got canceled because hurricane was coming. This was in Myrtle Beach. We had to evacuate. So it's good I flew down because he didn't want to evacuate his house, and I convinced him to evacuate. But anyway, finally we got him in there, and he's been doing it for, I'm going to say 4 weeks, maybe, these treatments. And he just got the MRI, and the tumor has shrunk to like this tiny, tiny, tiny thing.
Wow.
And his blood results are all moving in the right direction. Everything's improved on that front. And he's gained 16 pounds.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's the good news. The bad news is this shit's really expensive and insurance doesn't cover it and they don't have any money. And so we put together, one of his best friends put it together, and my wife actually wrote the copy because I was sitting down and I'm like, this copy sucks. And my wife goes, here, let me do it.
You're too close to it.
Yeah. So we did a GoFundMe campaign, and we raised about $35,000, and that's what enabled him. David, I can tell you all about this treatment. I just saw the comment. David Maswari, is that how you pronounce it?
Maswari, yeah.
Yeah, I could tell you all about the treatment, man. So happy to, share all the resources with you and everything. So $35,000 we raised, which was enough to get him started on this treatment. And basically it's a 10-week protocol, but then after that you go down to maintenance treatments. And then after a point, it's like, once a week for the rest of your life, pretty much, to keep, coming back.
Right.
So that's what enabled him to get to where he is now. He's got, I'm say like another 6 weeks of treatment to go, but he runs out of money in a week.
1 week from now.
Yeah. And so, we've been all digging into our pockets and stuff, but You know what Dan Kennedy has taught all of us is, if you want money, get it from your list, right?
Have them pay for it. Yeah.
Right? So what could we offer the list that would be a total no-brainer for them,
Right.
so that they would happily pay money? And so I said, well, I could do a training. Now, we don't have time to put together a live event or any of that stuff.
Right.
It's very involved. It's very crazy. But a Zoom call, heck, that's easy.
Right. So, right. So we did some brainstorming this morning. You, myself, Brian Kurtz, David Deutsch, and came up with a lot of different ideas.
Deb Griffith, also prostate cancer. That's good news. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kevin, but I want to acknowledge all the wonderful folks on the call, who are, if you have one of the problems with the GoFundMe was you're asking somebody to give money because your cousin has cancer. Well, guess what? Everybody has it.
Right.
So prostate cancer is one of the slowest growing cancers there is. So that's the good news, Deb. And again, I'm happy to share with you the resources for that. And there are things specific to prostate cancer. For example, it's largely an estrogenic cancer, so you would do stuff like that. But I will happily send you that. So, but back to you, Kevin. I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. And maybe we could do some Q&A here at the end. But I think what we would love, we're not pitching you guys on helping or doing anything. What we would really love is for you to help us kind of vote an impromptu, informal survey. And you don't have to answer right now, but what would, if you were told this story and you know that Parris very rarely teaches anything publicly, what would be a great thing for you to learn from Parris on a Zoom call like this, a webinar, potentially a series of 3 webinars? Not going to ask what that would be worth to you. That's a tricky question, but
I kind of wouldn't mind hearing,
okay.
For the hell of it. I wouldn't mind hearing what.
Yeah, we're not gonna turn around. This is not a trick, but Parris knows this community is very cool and plugged in, and I think you guys, Parris doesn't have a list. You are the list right now, and you are the avatar for what could Parris offer to teach you and give to you that would make it worth you donating. I don't know,
whatever it is, we're going to come up with a price. We're going to come up with a curriculum for me to teach on a webinar or 2 or 3. All 100% of the money is going to go to the GoFundMe. You would donate right there, and then I would email you the link.
You would either do that, or I think people certainly trust you, Parris, you could show the check and show the amounts. Again, what we don't want to create is a bunch of friction where they have to donate here. We know that a GoFundMe is taking a percentage, and then they have to show a receipt and do all these things. It can be done that way. But I think that's one of the things we discussed this morning is what's the best logic to this whole thing, right? And so, but really what we'd love from you today is, and so some people are answering already, just when you think of Parris and you've studied his stuff, what would be the most kick-ass thing to have him spend an hour, say, with him teaching you? What would you want to leave that time together with? What kind of power would you want to have in your hands that you didn't have before? So we're seeing things, Parris, like develop ideas to create great leads and headlines, copy critiques. What
happens? I'm an idiot with Zoom. Like, what happens after the call?
We have the comments. Yes.
All right, good.
Yes, that's why I want everybody to just weigh in now. Any thought you have, this will not disappear. We get a transcript. Brian McCarthy says, ask his Cubs their biggest holy shit, that's brilliant moment and teach us those.
Yeah. And I asked my last group of Cubs for their top 10 and they gave them to me. And I was looking for that last night when I was on the plane from Atlanta. I couldn't fucking find it. So how many F-bombs we got so far? I think 3 or 4.
We're below 67, so we have some work to do. Cool. Yeah. Scott's saying bullets. Bullets are good. We've done bullets. You were very generous to review your own bullet, the podcast episode. So I think we could probably get sexier than bullets, but so would it be the psychology of how to approach the market? Would it be more distinct? I'll give you some examples. Parris, one of the greatest lessons you ever gave me critiquing some of my copy was one concept per sentence, right? And just, again, like the simple, because it was the kind of thing that the second you taught it to me and the way you taught it to me instantly shifted how I wrote, how I critiqued, how I taught, everything. That's my first filter for, is this copy any good right now? And it's, again, to me, the amazing thing about how you teach is it's always seems like the most simple thing in the world, but it's a huge shift in how you think, and you instantly feel like you've just leveled up 2 or 3 spots as a copywriter. Stories, big hook training.
Better to have a product or be a copywriter for hire. David Reel, if you're just starting out, I hate to say this, but if I would have done this, it would have saved about 10 years off my career trajectory, is to get a job working as a salaried employee for a big direct response, super smart company like Agora, Guthrie Rinker, Beachbody, Golden Hippo. You will get paid to learn. So that's number one. But if it's a choice between copywriter for hire or your own product is better in the sense that you don't have to be A-level to make money. You can have B-level copy and make money for your own product. Whereas if you're a hired gun, the B-level copywriters aren't going to make nearly as much money as the A-levels. It's like the biggest money is in the top 1/10 of 1%. 80-20 of the 80-20 of the 80-20. It's all fractal. If you look at the 1995 championship Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan was being paid $30 million a year, I think, and the number 2 guy, Scottie Pippen, was making $2 million a year. So if you're a copywriter for hire, that's the game you're in. You're trying to be Michael Jordan. Whereas if you own your own basketball team, you don't have to own the Chicago Bulls. You could own the Albany Patroons, right, in the CBA and Continental Basketball Association and still be a millionaire. So from that aspect, your own product is a better way to go. Lower bar. Now, there's other challenges, business challenges. You have to be a businessman, not just a copywriter, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, we're getting some great answers here. And again, there's no pitch. There's nothing for sale now. We really just, first of all, genuinely asked Parris if he'd come share. And then we said, well,
I'm just curious as to what people would pay, because we did have some disagreement over the phone this morning.
Yeah. Well, it's one of these things where I think our target, Parris, obviously 100,000 would be great, but I think somewhere around $60,000 is what he needs to get through these treatments, right? And
if we got 65 grand, then I think he's covered,
so to me, it becomes a thing of, do we want, 600 people to pay $100?
I think we're talking too much and steering people maybe. Okay. Just at a gut level reaction.
Gut level, what would you want?
What would you pay?
You read about this, say you read a sales letter.
Brian and I had disagreements as to what we thought the right price point was. And we're not going to be able to do A/B split test on this.
Right. It's got to go out. It's got to
go out and do it.
You see the price at the bottom of the page and you go, oh my God, are you kidding? Like, I can't type in my credit card fast enough. What's that price? Just be honest. This is not a trick. You're not going to be asked to pay it.
Well, they're going to be asked later.
Well, later. But, okay, 2,100, 199, 97, 100, 100, 500, 100, 500, 150, 250.
Look at Michelle Walk over there. Hey, Michelle.
2 to 5, 99. It's okay. A lot of hundreds, 500. An easy decision. All right. So again, I'm just knowing some of these folks. I'm seeing, different
It's all
avatars,
over the map here.
but it's kind of in a range. So
Yeah, it's in a
certainly,
range. No, I don't. Nobody said 25,000 yet. So
right.
the
Cool. Yeah.
rest I need for hookers and beer. One of my favorite lines ever. Doug McGraw, who was a pitcher for the New York Mets, he got this big raise, and they said, "What are you going to do with the money?" And he said, "About 30% of it, I'm going to spend on aged whiskey and expensive cars and loose women, and the rest I'll probably just waste."
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, cool. So again, we have this, well, Jimmy Parent, yeah, 25K. Let me come to your house for a few days. That's the thing. Again, it's like, this is why this is really helpful and we appreciate it. And keep typing in. This is not, again, just your gut instinct. Doesn't matter. Nobody's looking past that to judge or anything. But, Parris, obviously, very well known, as hard as he tried not to become famous, very well known in high circles. Maybe he could sell two people a $30,000 consult and help his cousin that way, or, whatever it is. But again, it's about what's at the end of the day going to get them the best result, so that he can be well and get through this. So, okay.
Yeah, you're right, David. Market to two lists, established versus unestablished. There's also, these $25,000 mastermind groups that I belong to. Most of them are business owners. They're looking for something a little different than what most of you guys are looking for. We're looking for what's the quickest thing that we could do, that we could get it up and running in a couple of weeks. And so a webinar, that's pretty damn easy. And, yeah, webinar is going to be a lower price point than the live event, obviously.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right. That is helpful. Really appreciate that. Does anybody have, in the 8 minutes we have left, questions for Parris? Would you like to come on and ask Parris a question? Only caveat has to be on camera. Yeah. I'll fly to where you are, Parris, and I'll do your hair and makeup and get your lighting right.
What's the secret to becoming a Cub?
A Parris Cub. How does that happen?
It's a secret to anything else. Provide value first before you ask for anything in return. Be persistent. There's a person in my group now who is on the waiting list for 4 years. I'm full now. I'm overbooked. I don't have enough work for all of them. But, at one point they're going to leave the nest and they're going to be making gazillions of dollars. And then I'll be looking for new Cubs and, but the people who just come up to me and go, "Hey, I want to be your Cub." Well, yeah, you and a bunch of other people. Why,
this is why I love telling Nicole's story, because I think it's offer value, but understand what you do that's of value and make that your bat signal and shine that to the world. So you heard Nicole on a podcast I did with her. You realized you needed her special brand of expertise to help your sister in a project. That's what started the relationship, and she is now a Cub of yours.
And by the way, she has risen faster than anybody, like in the biggest progress in the shortest amount of time. Because number one, she works her ass off.
Yeah.
Number two, she's really smart. And that's a big thing with copywriting. Most of the good ones are really smart.
That's right. Awesome. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody want to, again, just for your time and your help in helping us think this through, if you have a question for Parris, or
whose birthday's tomorrow?
Angie's birthday's tomorrow. What?
Angie! Happy birthday. Yeah, I wasn't even going to attempt to do the Mick Jagger thing.
That's exciting. Happy birthday, Angie. I did not realize that. And she's headed off for a week of fun with her family.
Awesome.
And Really cool. Going to Disney World. I'm going to Disney World.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Never get old.
Thank you, David.
That
Yeah.
electric light parade never gets old.
The way you can help, David, is to buy whatever Parris puts out. And again, you've helped by weighing in on what that should be. We're just genuinely seeing the sausage right here. Well, one sausage.
You're taken the wrong way, Kevin.
But you know, this is, again, nobody writes alone. Nobody figures out an offer alone. And so, Parris, let me ask you, are we allowed to play this? Can I replay this recording?
I suppose. Did we?
I'm trying. We didn't go super deep. I mean, you taught something really cool, but
yeah,
magic thing, very proprietary.
The what?
What we taught up front with the magic stuff, is that something you'd rather not have out there?
How far out there?
Oh, just in the community.
Yeah, that's
for members who couldn't be here. Okay. So what we'll do is we will put the replay up. We will put all these comments underneath it, as we always do. And we will ask people to continue submitting their ideas or just weighing in. What gut instinct? What would you pay? What would you love it to be? And we'll just continue this survey at least through the weekend. And you probably got to decide
maybe I'm asking a question that you can't answer, but what is the average fee that someone in your community charges to write a piece of copy? Let's say a long form sales letter.
Between $5,000 and $20,000.
Okay. And is the biggest challenge is that they're not getting enough gigs, or that they want to raise their fees, or what would you say?
I would say they probably want more access to better clients. Okay. As they scale their
right.
abilities.
So this is, you go up the ladder. In the beginning, I had the clients who paid me $2,000 flat fee, right? And now I have clients who pay me $25,000 up front. And actually, I could probably double that fee. I know, like people like John Johnson and everybody are doing that. I just haven't raised my fees in like 15 years. But the base fee isn't what I do it for. It's the royalties.
Right.
You know, you get 5% of sales. I've had a couple of times where I made over $1 million on one piece of copy I wrote. And so to get to that point, you need a super, super high level of skill. And that's what enabled me to keep raising the fees. You know, early on in my career, when I was first starting out, before I'd done anything, I went to a Ted Nicholas seminar, and I asked, he said, what are some questions? What do you guys want to get out of this seminar? And I got up and I said, how do you get copywriting gigs, and good ones? And he answered it. He said, you write a really great control, they're going to come looking for you. And I'm like, can't possibly be true, right? I mean, that's the Build-A-Better mousetrap thing. That doesn't work that way. But turns out it is true. As soon as I wrote my first control for Second Opinion newsletter back in 1996, I think it was, Agora started coming after me, Phillips. I mean, they just all came out of the woodworks. They're all starving for high-level copywriters, because most copywriters are mediocre to low level.
Right.
And so what I would be doing in this webinar series, obviously I can't teach everything I know in 3 webinars, right? I do it every week with my Cubs, you know, for years. But what I will do is I will pick a bunch of stuff that you're not going to learn anywhere else. Just like, you know, like we said before, ninja shit. And I just look, for example, the talk I gave 2 years ago at Copy Chief, the Schema Talk. Well, 1 year ago, it was 2 Copy Chiefs ago, right?
Yep.
Schema Talk. Okay.
Yep.
Already, people have gone on to do amazing things. Justin Goff credits me with like just revolutionizing the way he thinks about copy. If any of you are on his list, you know, he's mentioned that, like he saw that and it's like a big light bulb went off in his head. And now he goes so deep psychologically, and the guy is destroying. I mean, he recently had an event where he charged $25,000 a person for people, and he filled the event.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt about it. So I love that. So I love this. So now I think the idea of this would be raise your game, right?
Yeah.
This is the three trainings with Parris that will, and again, this is not one of these things where it's like, pay for this and then go tell everybody you were there and they should pay you more just because of it. It's going to change you on a cellular level. And again, I'm not bullshitting in the slightest. Every time Parris teaches me something, when he says, hold on, listen, and then walks me through something, I am a different copywriter on the other side of that conversation. So if you only had 3 of those conversations on a webinar series with Parris, you would be, I don't think it's extreme to say 10 times the copywriter you are now. Because look, we all know we need to type and we need to write the words, and writers write and do those things. It is the thinking, it is the awareness, it is the big picture that makes us great, gives us our unique abilities. And then it's everything we bring to it personally. It's how good of information can we get a hold of, and how willing are we to exercise those lessons? That's what's going to get you up that ladder. And you want to get in front of the big guys, and you want to get royalties, and you want to have your own products someday and all those things. Get good first. It's like Carlton says, right? Get good, get connected, get paid. That's the best way I've ever heard this process described. And if you are at the place where you're still in the get good stage, which we all basically always are, then this is, the best money you could spend no matter what the hell it costs. So I think it's exciting, Parris, that you're, for the first time, willing to do something like this. I'm sorry for why that is, that Taki's having to go through this. But if on the other side of it, a handful of really smart copywriters are going to level their game the way I know they can, and your family gets to have a chance that most people don't get when they are stricken with this disease, then, man, that's a lot of wins.
You can't see me because my camera's not on, but I'm nodding. It's like that old joke about, taking a blind girl on a date to a silent movie.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for weighing in, for hearing us out.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
And let's continue the conversation. I think you probably need, this was a breakthrough. I think that is about the sexiest thing you could offer and how you should frame it, Parris. The trust is there. I don't think we need to lay out exactly what you're going to teach until people show up and let them be blown away. But let's continue this conversation through the weekend. I think Parris, you probably need to decide this like Monday so you can get out promoting it. Like you said, his treatments run out in a week. The money needs to start coming in next week. So I'm with you here, brother. However I can help, me and my team are here to do it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. What a special episode of the Chief Chat. I really appreciate this community. You know how much I love you guys. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.